ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्वोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यस्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्र्यचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ मंत्र नंबर 5। अथ अध्यात्मं यदेतद्गच्छति इव च मनः अनेन च एतद् उपस्मरति अभीक्ष्णं संकल्पः। अथ अध्यात्मं, so with reference to an individual, well, this Brahman is Shrotrasya Shrotram, so close, Shrotrasya Shrotram, Manaso Manaha, by whose presence the senses and the mind have their existence. I mean, my senses exist because of I exist. I, the Brahman, the consciousness who is of the nature of existence, and I exist, therefore all the senses exist. I exist and therefore mind exists. I exist, therefore every thought exists. I exist, therefore the physical body exists. That's how it is. So Shrotrasya Shrotram. That's how ultimately even that, I mean the ear etc. exist because I exist, and therefore I am really the Shrotrasya Shrotram. I am ear of the ear. Well, I have told you already that a fan basically is a fan. Or let's say refrigerator is a better idea. And refrigerator is a refrigerator if electricity is there, otherwise it's a cupboard. And therefore basically, so point is, so refrigerator of the refrigerator is electricity. That's how it is. And same way the very existence of the refrigerator is possible because of that. Anyway, so this is how, so in Atha Adhyatmam, I mean, at the state, at the level of individual also, this Brahman, which basically Brahman has manifested in the form of Adhyatma and Adhideva. So in Adhideva we have seen all the Devatas, basically their existence of the Devatas and the function of the Devatas, activity of the Devatas, all are possible because of, because of Brahman. That has been told by Uma. And therefore don't take pride. Because basically whatever you did, your body exists because Brahman exists. Your mind exists, your abilities exist to win over the Asuras because ultimately Brahman exists. And therefore, all the glory should go to Brahman. Anyway, so then that Deva alone is the senses etc. Or here can take it at a level of individual. Here also the body exists because Brahman exists. Senses exist because Brahman exists. And mind exists because Brahman exists. So Manaso Manaha Shrotrasya Shrotram Pranasya Pranaha etc. And and the senses and mind have their existence and function because of whose presence, that is Brahman, and whom the senses and mind can never know because they are rooted in that. Right? The mind and senses are basically, they have their being in Brahman, have their existence in Brahman, and therefore they cannot know the Brahman, basically. And therefore they can know something different from them. But they basically are existing, have their being in the Brahman, and therefore they cannot know. So, then to know this truth of the individual is Brahman ultimately, there is no other way but except to an external means of knowledge we will have to employ, and that is Uma, that is the teaching of the Upanishad. And so Uma alone is a Brahma Vidya, Uma alone is a Brahma Vidya teacher. That is how. Any teacher of a Brahma Vidya is non-separate from Brahma Vidya. Otherwise he is a simple human being. So basically he is a teacher because the Brahma Vidya resides in him in knowledge. And so knowledge is non-separate from the conscious being, that is a teacher. And so ultimately, so Uma alone is a Brahma Vidya and she alone taught. So she is a teacher also. Anyway. So Atha Adhyatmam, with reference to Pratyagatma, the teaching is given here. The topic for which the Atma is Adi. Adi means Adhikaranam. So Atmanam Adhikritya Adhyatmam, that is how it has been, the etymological meaning of this Adhyatma is this. Atmanam Adhikritya. With respect to Atma. With regards to Atma. The topic is Atma. So with respect, and Atma means the individual here. So Adhyatmam now follows the teaching of Brahman centered on the individual, to tell the individual that whatever you are is Brahman. Your body is Brahman, everything is Brahman. Your subtle body is Brahman, your physical body is Brahman, your thought is Brahman, your senses are Brahman, your mind is Brahman, your hunger is Brahman, your thirst is Brahman. Everything is Brahman. As an individual, you are Brahman. That's what the Mahavakya is. You are Brahman. So, but Swamiji, there we do Bhagatyaga Lakshana. So, Swamiji, we remove that, the physical body and everything that you have told. And now you are saying that that is also included. Yeah, it is to be included. It is to be included. Because to make an equation we were doing with Ishvara, because you consider yourself as an individual. And then definitely cannot be equated with the Ishvara, and therefore we said like that way. But ultimately, in understanding of Brahman, which is limitless, this is also to be covered in the understanding of Brahman, right? Otherwise, how will you be limitless? If you throw away physical body and subtle body, and you also throw away, and I also throw away, and everybody, whoever is listening right now, throws away the body. So then basically, Brahman becomes not limitless, it is chota. It doesn't remain mota. And therefore, so this is just to make a separation. Atma and Atma separation is a very, very initial stage actually. That is not understanding of Brahman. Brahman is just to make, to understand the consciousness has no limit. Well, we definitely remove the identification with the body so that our limitations would definitely get dropped. That's all only the purpose is. And then consciousness covers everything. Once you say that I am consciousness, in the consciousness everything exists, entire universe exists. And therefore, you pervade everything like the water pervades the wave. And so everything is Brahman here. And not only then, when I say here everything is Brahman, I also am going to say in your body I pervade everything. In that body I pervade everything. That's how I'm going to say. That's how I become all pervading. Not to this pervading just this body. I pervade all the bodies. Anyway, that is how the even sense of localization also will go away. Anyway, so yad etad, that Brahman is this. Yad means, as I told you, Prakritam Brahma, which is under discussion right now, and which the Devas knew after being taught that Brahman is etad. Here also it is this Pratyagatma. Here it is the self. The same Brahman which was taught to Devatas as their selves, as their self basically. Well, the same self, that Brahman is the self of this individual also. So it is in the form of I. Etad means this is which is innermost, Pratyagatma, which is in the form of I, which is self-revealing. So this means this Atma, that is all which is self-evident in form of I am, that is also Brahman. So that's how the individual is told you are Brahman. Manaha gacchati iva, the mind goes as though towards Brahman. As I said, it has been told to you that you are Brahman, so your mind starts going towards to reveal that Brahman. And therefore, it has been told like this. But basically, we have to remember the story, like this Agni, Vayu, Indra went near Yaksha to objectify Yaksha, who that Yaksha is. So in order to objectify Brahman, they went near. Well, they failed. So here also mind also moved towards. When I said you are Brahman, your mind moved towards to objectify that Brahman, to reveal the Brahman. But basically it fails. How can you say it fails? Ever. So as though it goes. As though it goes. Then how will I know? Yesterday I told you, and we are going to discuss today also. We'll take a little different stand today. Anyway, so they basically, I cannot reveal. That's what I want to say. Basically, my mind cannot reveal the Brahman, because manaso manaha. Basically, I am mind of the mind. Brahman is a mind of the mind. Because of this existence of Brahman, which is present here, and mind has its being in that. Mind is rooted in that. The thought is rooted in that. And therefore, thought cannot know. That is what it has been told here. So the mind goes as though towards the Brahman. So because it has to know. So and this is the orientation. There is nothing wrong in that. I mean, no one has to feel should have a guilt like that. Oh, Swamiji, I always try to objectify Brahman. Need not. Because this is way we know. This is the only way we know. There is no other way to know any other thing in the world. So, anything that the mind has to know, ultimately, it has to go towards and objectify. So, if a clip has to be known, well, the mind has to objectify it. The flower, the clip, and assume the form of a clip, basically. So, same way, Brahman has to be known. So, we cannot know Brahman, of course, like we know the clip. So, we come to know a clip because, of Brahman, because this is revealed. This is revealed, and I have told you the process or transaction process, right? If you remember, it will be very useful right now. Transaction process in which I know the clip. The clip is revealed. I know the clip means clip is revealed by me. That's all. Clip cannot reveal itself. Otherwise, clip will shout and say, don't search on the table, I am here. I'm right now, sometimes it happens that lot of papers are there, and then pen, you are searching pen, but it is below some papers are there. And therefore we keep on searching, we'll, take away the papers and here and there we are searching and still it won't come in. So the pen has to tell, oh, I'm here, don't search, oh Swami, you don't search, I'm here. But pen does not reveal itself. Conscious being reveals the pen, right? Conscious being know the pen. So basically any object, entire prapancha, entire anatma prapancha, and entire inert world is this, which is revealed by a conscious being, and conscious being reveals itself and therefore self-revealing, self-evident. Anyway, so the way I know this clip, I cannot know Brahman. Even though I am hearing from you, suppose you are a teacher and telling me you are Brahman, my mind starts moving towards objectifying that Brahman, will fail. Well, you say, Swamiji, in your hand there is a clip. Well, that is correct. Then I can see here, and immediately my mind basically takes a form of a clip. And then, the Chidabhasa is there in the thought, immediately that object shines in my mind. So that's we call clip knowledge. Could you follow that? That's a clip knowledge. So basically, what is happening in the object, now let's take that way. In any other knowledge other than the knowledge of Brahman, in the process of knowledge there are two things involved. First thing is the clip which is remote in terms of ignorance. I was not knowing. That clip becomes very proximate. How? When the mind definitely through the eyes go and covers the clip. When the mind goes through the eyes and basically pervades the clip, then now the clip is no more remote. Clip has entered into your mind in form of a thought. Right? This much is clear. That is called vritti vyaptihi. Vyaptihi means a pervasion and vrittihi means by thought. A clip has become a proximate in terms of knowledge ultimately. Clip has become proximate. It has entered into your mind in form of a thought. Mind only has assumed the form, When mind through the eyes has contacted this object, mind assumed the form of a clip, which we call as a clip thought. That is called vritti vyapti. And definitely mind is pervaded by chidabhasa also. Basically the consciousness is reflected into that, manifested into that, and so that chidabhasa, which is in the form of a now thought, the chidabhasa which is there in the mind, of course also illumines the clip in the mind. That is called phala vyapti. Phala vyapti means basically the clip thought is there, still the clip is not known to you. Clip is not known to you, even though mind has pervaded the clip and it has made clip is in the form of a thought right now in your mind. But clip is not illumined. To illumine you require ultimately consciousness. And therefore consciousness basically getting reflected or manifested in the clip thought. And clip becomes a object of your knowledge. We call it as a phala vyapti. Phala vyapti means pervasion by a consciousness or reflected consciousness. Let us say that way, because ultimately manifest in the form of a thought. So consciousness, when pervades the thought, consciousness gets manifest in the thought, then the same clip thought becomes clip knowledge. That's how we say. And of course, consciousness is manifested in the mind also as a knower, as a chidabhasa. And so, you say, I am a knower of a clip. You say that. I have a clip knowledge, you say. Right? So, this is in the process of knowledge. This is a way, this is a model of understanding how knowledge takes place of any object. Two steps are there. One is a pervasion by a thought or a mind, and second is a pervasion by the reflected consciousness present in the mind or a thought. So that is how takes place. Now what about Brahman? How Brahman knowledge takes place? Well, definitely we say, when you are been told that you are Brahman, you are limitless. Brahman means you are not going to understand it Brahman. You are going to ask, what is that Brahman? I am Brahman, of course, but what is that Brahman? That is where you have to go ahead. I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. That's a parrot. Nothing happens. So basically I am limitless. Oh, then I am, which is self-revealing, which is a adhara, which is a locus of already some mistakes because of self-ignorance. I am Brahman, I should have already told, because I am self-revealing. Then self has to reveal in form of a limitlessness. But because there is self-ignorance, a partial revelation is there, which we call, yesterday I told you, a samanya prasiddhi. In general I know. Like the Devas know in general that he is a Yaksha. They were not knowing who that Yaksha is. They should have told that, he is Brahman. Then where is the question of going near and all this problem? In fact, if that is Brahman is known to them, they would not have done like this also in the party, etc. If everything is Brahman, they would not have done like this while drinking the hot soup. Well, but they did. So that's all. Where Brahman is, the ego is not. Where ego is, Brahman is not. That simple thing. That is where they did a mistake. That is where they did. I again go back to the story before I go ahead. Well, when they went to Yaksha, they went as a ego, right? And that is why, in fact, before they asked Yaksha, who are you? Yaksha asked them, who are you? And that they revealed their ego. I am Jata Veda, I am Matarishva, I am Agni, Prasiddha Agni, and I am Prasiddha Vayu, etc., etc. Means I am, which is self-revealing, not known as a Brahman. That is where Yaksha told them, if you would have known yourself, you would not have come here. That's how he asked them, who are you? He said. That itself is an insult to them, in fact. And anyway, let's stop here in the story. But my point is ultimately, so where the ego is, where the individuality is, there Brahman is not. And therefore it has been told here, Atha Adhyatma, with respect to individual also, this teaching of Brahman has been given that you are Brahman. And here, whatever in the individual is there, everything is Brahman. Anyway, how Brahman knowledge takes place. So you have been told you are limitless. Brahman means limitless. So you are limitless. Immediately your mind pervades Brahman. Means what? Limitless? No. You start dropping limitations. That's how it is. You are. So you say I am. You won't say to the teacher you are Brahman. You say I am Brahman. Right? Definitely. You will not tell to the teacher. Teacher tells you you are Brahman and you also tell to teacher you are Brahman, then it is finished. It is not the thing. You say I am. Habba. So I am is self-revealing. But further, the particular evidence is not there. What is that particular evidence as Brahman that is not evident to me? Why? Because self-ignorant. But then whole thing has to be covered. No, whole thing cannot be covered. Because basically you are self-conscious. Self-conscious. You are conscious of yourself. You are evident to yourself. And therefore I am is very self-evident. But it is self-ignorance is there. And in absence of ignorance, that self-evident I am becomes a locus for the mistakes. And so you say, I am ego, I am human being, I am this, I am that, I am that. Well, and because of that, you have a sense of limitation. When you say, I am an individual, ho gaya kaam, ho gaya. Time-wise, space-wise, object-wise, you are limited. You have a certain physical limitations. And that is how one becomes a jealous of another person. In terms of body also. One can become a jealous. Oh, he is having or she is having a so nice, very good health. I am not enjoying such a health. I don't know, I have so much fat in the abdomen. I don't know how to remove that fat. And then he has a good height and I have a less height and he has some, all problems. This is called physical limitation. This is samsara. So basically in absence of a self-ignorance, who you are basically, that is limitless Brahman, that I am which is self-evident, becomes a locus of the body to be connected to the I am. And therefore, so when I say you are Brahman, you basically definitely starts dropping limitation because you have understood the meaning of Brahman as a limitless. And therefore, you start dropping limitations which you have already superimposed. I am, that is self-evident. So, by thought, I am is not revealed. Because I am, thought is revealed. Please understand this. Since you are, there is a thought. So, thought does not reveal I. Because of I, the consciousness, definitely even the thought is revealed. Thought is illumined. Thought is known, etc. And therefore, basically, I am, that self-evident, along with that limitations of the body, etc., is that you start dropping. That is called vritti vyapti. That is called vritti vyapti. You don't pervade limitlessness through the mind. No thought a thought which is too limited cannot pervade limitless and illumine the limitless. So basically you drop the limitation. And then you understand, when you drop the limitation, that self-evident Atma alone is understood as limitless. That's all it is. So you cannot create limitlessness by knowledge, or you cannot know limitlessness by knowledge in this way. But you drop the limitations, and that is called the vritti vyapti. That is called the pervasion of a thought. In terms of negating. And in fact, the whole understanding of Brahman is by negation. Please understand this. Because the self-evident Atma is already understood wrongly. And in the understanding of in that false understanding, your real nature is as though covered. And therefore, basically it is dropped. Limitations are dropped. So you understand clearly I am limitless or I am Brahman. Takes time. Takes time because so many limitations are there you have dropped. Not only that, those limitations, taking limitations on yourself, centered on the self, definitely it has formed a habit also. And therefore, while you are listening or while you are doing Nididhyasana, I am taking both the things together now. Whether you are listening or whether you are doing Nididhyasana, either way, ultimately Nididhyasana also is reliving the teaching only. And therefore, what you have heard, you are trying to see there again in the Nididhyasana. And therefore, either it is in a Shravanam or either in a Nididhyasana, basically you drop the limitation, but again because of the habit, the limitations appear. Again you drop the limitations, again limitations appear. Limitations you can understand is born of identification with the body. I am is connected to the body and consider it limited. So drop limitation, drop limitation, drop limitation. Again it will appear. This is even Shravanam. So when the Shravanam is ultimately over, when you understand clearly that this Atma is basically limitless, but this sheer habits is there, that habit will ultimately go away in this Dhyasa. But first you should understand, get convinced that Atma, the I, which is self-evident, is limitless. Anyway, now that is pervasion of the Vritti. That is Vritti Vyapti, means in terms of an understanding, dropping the limitations, etc., negating the limitations, is also Vritti Vyapti. And basically, so and then Phala Vyapti means that thought has to be illumined. Which thought? Ultimately that I am limitless has to be, that thought has to be illumined basically by Chaitanya, not required because you are self-revealing. And therefore, that is not required. In case of other objects, they cannot reveal themselves, therefore it has to be revealed through reflected consciousness in a thought, because this is not self-revealing. And therefore, Phala Vyapti is required. So, pervasion of the object through the consciousness or reflected consciousness is required. But in case of I, well, in case of Brahman, basically that is not required because I am self-revealing. Since I am self-revealing, only I require is dropping the notions, dropping the limitations, negating the limitations, disidentifying with the body. Either you can say all these things are ultimately same thing. So, your Vritti Vyapti or pervasion by thought, pervasion of the Brahman through thought is what? Brahma thought is what? The Brahman thought is nothing but ultimately negation of disidentifying yourself from the physical body, etc., negating the limitations or negating even the attributes of the bodies, etc. also. And therefore, so I am free from the notion of that I am having a height, etc. I am free from the notion, basically, I am not a male, I am not a this, I am not a female, etc. etc. All this is Vritti Vyapti. But basically, then after pervading with, this self, with in form of this kind of understanding in which there is a negation, after that, that self has to be illumined by, Chidabhasa. It's not, sir, you are very consciousness by which the reflected consciousness even exists, and even you pervade all the thoughts. Therefore, you need not be pervaded by, like this is what, I have given you example before few classes. Like sun definitely gets reflected in the bucket of water. And then we say that reflected sun basically illumines the original sun. What a thing it is. How can it illumine? Reflected sun illumines the original sun. It is not possible. Original sun does not require to be illumined because it is self-revealing, self-illumining. And therefore, all this, bucket, the water itself is illumined by that reflected consciousness, that reflected sun, that is all right. That I can understand. But reflected sun illumines the original sun. That's not possible. And therefore, I am the consciousness which basically manifests in every thought. And by that, the thought which is nothing but a object Mind alone has modified into that object. Mind is in the form of that object, that is the thought, and therefore thought also, the object also is illumined, that I can understand through that manifest consciousness. But I am self-conscious, therefore need not be illumined by the thought. Could you follow what I am saying? And therefore, ultimately, only vritti vyapti is required, and that vritti vyapti is nothing but it is a negation of what you are not. And that negation of what you are not, all these misconceptions which are superimposed upon that I am, which is self-revealing, self-evident, well, has to be dropped one by one. All that misconception has to be dropped. That is called vritti vyapti. That is called thinking. That is called the usage of the mind, basically, in understanding Brahman. Brahma Jnanam means this. Brahma Jnanam means basically pervasion of thought to the Brahman, but it is not really objectifying Brahman, and that is why it has been said here, Manaha gacchati eva. Mind goes as though, cannot go. Yato vacho nivartante. Aprapya manasasana. The mind and the thought, mind and the words, everything try to reach to Brahman, to illumine them. Well, they cannot illumine. They have returned. Patak, patak, patak. It has been fallen. So it has fallen like that. So this is how we have to understand. So that's how he said, Mana gacchati. And so, some people overlook this fact and the cell, we can understand the necessity of a mind in understanding Brahman, whether it is a Shravanam or whether it is a Nididhyasana. Mind is all the time there. There are some champions who say, they overlook this fact and they say one requires one requires a different type of mind. It is, the Brahman is revealed through a different type of mind. Same mind. Same mind is enough, because basically no mind, a special mind also cannot illumine Brahman. That mind is illumined by the Brahman. And therefore, like the reflected sun cannot illumine the original sun, same way everything, ultimately the mind which you find right now, a conscious mind, that consciousness itself is a borrowed consciousness or a reflected consciousness. And therefore, so this is the way we have to understand the process of Brahma Jnanam, basically. So one does not understand, does not transcend the mind. In fact, the mind is required, and that is said in this mantra. Otherwise, they would not have used this portion at all. Mana gacchati. Well, when it has been told by a teacher, you are Brahman, mind started moving towards objectifying Brahman. And therefore, basically, it should reach to the Brahman. Like all these devatas reached to the yaksha, but they could not objectify. Same way the mind also reached to the Brahman, but they without objectifying that Brahman, they returned. But then the mind is not required. That's what we are saying, mind is required. But mind cannot objectify, illumine, reveal Brahman. That's all. Mind requires to drop the notion. That is what Nirvana Shatakam does. Every stanza, all the three lines in every stanza where mind is required. And then basically after dropping, but then how will I know I am Chidananda? But first drop the notion. That's enough. Drop the notion. Because the Chidananda is not appreciated by you because of basically wrong notions already imposed upon, hipped on all this self-revealing Atma, that is I am. Therefore, I am already has become a locus of all misconceptions, and to remove that you need a mind, you need a vritti, you need thoughts, basically. So every word in a Shastra pertaining to Atma is so useful, otherwise the moksha itself is sufficient. Because Atma is equal to Nityaha, is equal to Asangaha, is equal to Brahman, is equal to Shuddhaha, is equal to Mokshaha. All these words I can swallow, and I can just use word Mokshaha is sufficient. Whenever you say something to me, I say moksha. You are mukta, you are free. You are free. You are free. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Because I have to address your wrong notions, which has been already superimposed upon self-revealing Atma. That is I am. And that already superimposed. And therefore you say I am subject to birth and death. Swamiji, how many years now I live? I have lived so long. And so when I have to say then, well, you are free from birth and death, etc. I have to tell. And therefore I have to bring new words. Just freedom is not enough. I have to connect. You are free from birth and death. Why I have to use this all? Because you are already saying that I am subject to birth and death. So I have to say you are free from birth and death. Otherwise, why should I say? I should simply say you are free. No, but that's not enough. You are free from birth and death. That also I have to tell. And that is also not sufficient. Then I have to use some more words. How can I be free from birth and death? Yeah, then some more words. And that, after the whole understanding, so many words, and pertaining to that there is thinking, and that will drop a notion from your mind that I am subject to birth and death. Then automatically that I am, that adhara, connects to the self, the real self, which is free from birth and death. Would you follow? So this is how I am ajaha, etc. We have used this word. Ajo nitya shashvatoyam purana. So why should I say you are ajaha? You are free from birth. Need not be. But I have to tell because you say I am subject to birth. You say Swamiji, I am 55 now. I am 75, whatever. So, so you say, you connect yourself with the age and birth and everything. And Swamiji, my birth date is now very near. Are you here? Okay. So this is how it is. Well, I say, so this is what the notion is. And it is not going to go. It is not going to go because it has formed a habit. Otherwise, merely Shravanam would have made you free. It's not. It's not. That's how Nididhyasanam is required. That's how the same teaching which I have told you, you have to remember later also. Because once I say you are free from birth, basically, you say, okay, Swamiji, I am self-revealing, now I understood. I am free from birth and death also. Enough. Then, well, but that's not enough. The very next moment you say, my birth date is very near. And therefore, well, so therefore that has formed a habit. So you have to relive my words, relive the words of teaching again and again and again. That's called Nididhyasanam. So Nididhyasanam is reliving the Shravanam, reliving the teaching of Brahman. And that is where mind is required. So mind has to drop the notion, basically pertaining to varieties of the notion. Or else let's look into little differently now. Manaha gacchati, because Kenopanisad has given another clue also. Manaha gacchati, mind goes as though towards Brahman at the time of Shravan. If you are able to appreciate, this is also a very nice way of looking at it, and we have already seen that mantra very, very elaborately. Suppose if you say, Swamiji, what you told already in yesterday evening class and today, I am not able to appreciate. Then there is another way also of doing it, definitely. But again, mind is required. Mind is required. There is no way that one can bypass them. Why are you saying all this? Because that is what people think. Moksha means mind has to be dropped. Some people drop they want to drop the mind through the process of Ashtanga Yoga. Ultimately, they want to drop Vritti Nirodha. All the Vrittis have to go basically. And then the only that, the Atma remains, basically. And that Atma, is realized as a Brahman, etc. So, Yogastu Chitta Vritti Nirodha. So, very Chitta Vritti itself is an obstacle for the yogis. We say you cannot know yourself without a Vritti. That's a big problem. So that is where we don't accept samadhi at all. Basically, a problem is of ignorance, problem of misconceptions, and therefore misconceptions and ajnanam will go by the jnana vritti. And that jnana vritti is basically all these words pertaining to Atma. You should listen it, understand it, and drop the wrong notion. Another word, understand it properly, with center on the self, that is I am, which is self-evident, and drop the notion. Another word. And so mind is required. That is called jnana vritti, in which you drop the notions which are already there. Anyway, but now let's look into this manaha gacchati eva little differently also. Manaha gacchati eva, so the mind as though goes towards Brahman at the time of Shravana. The same mind basically recognizes Brahman. How? Pratibodha viditam. In every thought, consciousness is invariably present. And this recognition in the form of a vritti is gained only by the mind. So this is Shravana phalam. Basically, what happens, we have seen that. Bodham prati yad viditam. I will again go back to that, the jnana vyavahara, that is how the knowledge takes place. You see, every object, right, enters into a mind in the form of a thought. We have seen that right now. So that this is in the form of a thought. But that is not knowledge. So consciousness basically reveals it. In form of Chidabhasa, what ultimately consciousness reveals it. So I can say, now instead of a clip thought, it has become a clip knowledge. That is called bodha. Clip bodha. Clip thought plus consciousness becomes clip knowledge. So bodha. Then mind being what it is, it will immediately shift from clip to something else. Then it will shift from this to something else. From there to something else. And therefore you have so many thoughts. And every thought is like a mirror, and in which consciousness manifests. Consciousness gets reflected. And that particular thought, object of the thought basically it has nothing but an object. Mind basically has assumed the form of a thought. So that object is revealed. And therefore you have so many pieces of knowledge. Clip knowledge, book knowledge, that knowledge, this knowledge, that knowledge, this knowledge, so many. But what is variable in that and what is invariably present in that? Variable is this object. Variable is the thought, right? Variable is a thought and variable is object also. As per the thought, as per the object, mind assumes a form. Another object, mind assumes a form. Another object, mind assumes a form. So thought and object both are variable, constantly variable, constantly. Even if you close your eyes, still in your mind several people appear one after another. Several objects appear one after another. But the consciousness which basically reveals them, which illumines them, which makes us know, well, that consciousness is basically invariable. Right? Consciousness is invariable. That consciousness is you. You are invariable. You are that invariable consciousness. So in this recognition, so in the form of a vritti, of course, well, this is also the consciousness is gained through the mind as I, the invariable factor in every piece of knowledge. So this is called the result of a shravanam. So when you listen a shastra through the teacher, basically you will come to know that in every piece of knowledge in the mind is required because thoughts are there. So in every thought, and thought doesn't remain as a thought. It becomes a piece of knowledge for you. So it is not just a part thought, but it is part knowledge. So Gata Jnanam is there, which is called in the mantra as a bodha. That bodha, well, the thought turns to knowledge because of the invariable consciousness. Why invariable? Because that remains as it is. But how can you say that invariable consciousness is myself? Let the invariable consciousness be there all the time in the mind in one corner, and various objects come from one side of the room and goes and from the other side of the. Suppose there is a room, there are two doors. Like from one door objects appear and they come in light, and then from other door they go away. Then another object comes from the door, and then it goes, and that is get illuminated. So consciousness, let it be there in my mind as like some kind of a lamp, and it continuously all the time reveals different objects. How can you say that invariable consciousness is you? How can you say that? You are taking liberty, I think, Swami. Well, because you say, I am not saying. You say, I know pot, I know clip, I know camera. You are telling and you are a conscious being, and you are telling that I know pot, now I know clip, now I know table, now I know book. Therefore, you are invariable factor in every piece of knowledge. And you are a conscious being, and therefore invariable consciousness is yourself. Nobody, the mind does not say I know. You are saying, as a conscious being, you are saying, I know now this, now I know this, now I know this. And therefore, you are invariable in all the different pieces of knowledge in the mind, basically. And this is way also you can know yourself. And therefore, there also manaha gacchati. So mind is required. Mind definitely cannot objectify consciousness. But in the mind, in different pieces of knowledge, well, definitely you know as a invariable factor, as a consciousness which is invariable factor in all the different thoughts. Every thought becomes a piece of knowledge, or becomes a bodha, becomes a piece of knowledge because of you, the consciousness, which is manifesting in every thought, which is like a mirror and turns and illumines the object. Definitely. But Swamiji, I am knower. Yeah, definitely. Because basically you manifest yourself in the mind. That's what Chidavas, and that is called knower. I have already told you. But that is in general, you are knower. But then when you see this, mind assumes this form now. Then consciousness, that reflected consciousness present as a knower in the mind, also gets reflected in the thought also. And so, well, definitely, then that particular object, which has taken a form of a thought, of a mind, basically, that also is illuminated. And that is how either, in terms of a jnata, knower, or in terms of a jnanam, that is part knowledge, etc., is all possible because of you. You are invariable consciousness, which is all pervading, present in the mind, present in the thought, manifesting in the thought, manifesting in the mind, basically does this job. Right? And so if suppose that invariable consciousness is not there, where is a question of becoming a knower also? Where is a question of becoming, gaining a knowledge also? The very knowledge, part knowledge is possible because of a consciousness manifesting there. If consciousness is not there, well, that we cannot think of, but let's say if it is not there, where is a question of knower, or where is a question of knowledge also? And therefore, you are invariable consciousness, present as a knower, present as a object of knowledge, present in the object of knowledge, present in the very thought also. Right? Present in the thought also. So all this Tripudi, triad, is possible. Jnata, Jnanam and Gneyam. Knower, known and the very knowledge. Everything is possible because of invariable consciousness, which is ever present. Ever present. Why it is ever present? It is limitless. Anything limitless is ever present. There cannot be, limitless cannot go. Limitless wants, he is fed up with the thoughts. Limitless consciousness is fed up with the thoughts and it wants to run away from the thoughts. It says, well, I don't want to get reflected in this thought. This thought is a very bad thought. Well, I don't want to get reflected. And so he wants to run away. But where can it run? A limitless, where can it run? Even space must be thinking that sometimes space also must be getting fed up with us and it wants to go away. But where can it go? That's a problem. So in every thought, that limitless consciousness being limitless, it is present in every thought. It is present in every mind. It is present in everything, of course. But the mind, why? Because we are talking about mind, because they are special materials. Getting some consciousness manifest also. So special material like a mirror. So well, then that is how this whole knowledge takes place. So you can take any piece of knowledge of a mind and you can see I am invariable consciousness present in the mind. So pratibodha viditam matam, that way also you can take it. And therefore you require mind, definitely. And that's how you are not able to appreciate what I have said right now in a state of deep sleep. You cannot appreciate this, right? Because in a deep sleep state, mind is not present. But if, mind is present, then mind can illumine this consciousness. No. Gacchati iva. As though. So mind as though goes towards consciousness. As though means how? This is the way. You take, not mind has objectified you. Mind has not objectified the consciousness. You have understood. The self-evident Atma, I mean the I has understood myself as an invariable consciousness present in the mind and manifesting in every thought, which is variable. So in all the variables, suppose this is so beautiful, Ishvara's grace this is, that mind is moving constantly. Otherwise, you will not be able to appreciate invariable factor. You can appreciate invariable thing when something is variable. Then only you can appreciate. Suppose as a child I am born and I saw mother. Very first thing I saw mother. And well, that's all. And then mother thought is stuck there. That's all. Throughout the life, no knowledge can take place. Not only that, you cannot appreciate that you are invariable factor because the very thought has become invariable. And then how will you appreciate consciousness that is invariable? That's not possible. So it's thank God that the mind is moving constantly. Different thoughts are there. I mean, mind assumes varieties of the forms. It may be a sound form, it may be a color form, or it may be a taste form. Varieties of the forms. It keep on assuming. And that is how you are able to appreciate. Since it is a variable, you are able to appreciate yourself as an invariable factor in every piece of knowledge. And so, may you learn this way. You can learn this way also. And this is a way also you can, this is a way you have to understand the Shastra and the teaching of the Brahman, that you are the invariable consciousness in the every piece of knowledge in the mind. This is called Shravana Phalam. This is the result of this knowledge. Now, what about Mananam? What about Mananam? Well, if there is a doubt in this recognition, that kind of a recognition that I am invariable consciousness, you may have a doubt. Well, how can the consciousness which is invariable, can be Brahman? How can you call it limitless? Okay, I am consciousness, invariable consciousness. That's okay, I understood. Well, which I do not know. But how can you say that I am Brahman? That consciousness is limitless, how can you say that? So then, definitely you have to think over. So you have certain doubts, has to be removed by the same faculty which has created a doubt. Mind only has created a doubt, and that mind only has to resolve. This is how it is. What can we do? Same mind creates a doubt, and then mind only has to resolve that doubt. Anyway, the mind. But somebody please tell, how am I limitless consciousness? We have discussed so much we have discussed. Consciousness is limitless, we have discussed several times. Swamiji, you want to avoid it seems. No, I don't want to avoid, but how many times I have to repeat? So please go back to the previous notes or previous lectures or etc. and please see that. I am limitless consciousness. If you remember, see, you have started Swamiji. No, I have not started. I am not starting. Well, you have to start basically with this. I am giving you some clues for that. First thing is, if you want to see yourself, understand yourself as limitless, you will have to tackle space, right? Ultimately, space has to be tackled because space is something which is posing itself as a limitless to you. And with respect to that space, you take yourself as a very, very limited entity. You think that you are very limited in space, and therefore you cannot appreciate you are all pervading, limitless, even pervades the space, etc. So basically you have to start thinking with the space and yourself, that is consciousness, right? Because you have not appreciated consciousness as limitless. So your consciousness, that much you should know, but that itself I have a doubt. No, then what can I do? Well, I am conscious that itself is, I have a doubt. Then you have to start from the physical body. You have to start from the physical body. If you are not able to appreciate your consciousness, you are definitely able to appreciate that you are conscious being. That much you are able to appreciate. Swamiji, that also I am not able to appreciate, then there is no solution. If you say I am not a conscious being, well, to say I am not a conscious being, you have to be a conscious being. Therefore, basically that is self-evident. So please don't say that. When I say I am, I is this conscious being, and am means this existent. I am existent conscious being. That much you are able to appreciate. But that conscious being, while saying, you take yourself as a limited. Being means I am a limited. And therefore you have to drop the limitations in order to understand ultimately you are just consciousness. And for that, definitely all these things which are very dear to me. So say that this is non-I. The body, etc. is an object of your knowledge, and you are the very subject. Subject can never be the object. Object can never be the subject. This subject-object confusion is there, and therefore you accept that subject-object confusion. But how can you say that is subject-object confusion? And therefore this is another problem. So, because I tell you, our verbal usage indicates that there is a confusion. Verbal usage. Sometime for the body you are using I, and sometime for the body, same physical body, you are using my physical body. You say also sometime, oh, my body is this. And sometime you say I as a body. Sometime you say body as a my also. I and mine cannot be one. Think. I and mine cannot be one. Cannot be one. My car and I cannot be one. You never say I am the car. So therefore, I and mine indicates relationship. And therefore, so anyway, but basically physical body is a very intimate object of knowledge, mind is intimate object of knowledge, senses are an intimate object of knowledge. You experience your senses, you experience your mind, you experience your physical body the way you experience other physical body. You experience other senses. I am not experiencing other senses. Anyway, you are able to infer also. No problem. So you are able to infer somebody's senses. You are able to basically compare to that inference, which is a indirect knowledge. You are directly perceiving your eyes. You are directly experiencing your eyes. That is what you are able to describe also. About your eyes, nobody in the creation can. The most experienced doctor, specialist of the eyes also cannot tell what you can tell about your eyes. Only first you have to tell, then he infers what you have. You have to tell. Means for him, for a specialist, eye specialist, your eyes is an object of inference, indirect knowledge. For you, it is a direct knowledge. Your eyes is object of a direct knowledge. What is more powerful in terms of knowledge? Direct or indirect knowledge? Direct knowledge. And therefore, basically, ultimately, everything is here is object of knowledge. And I am the knower of the object of knowledge. These are all known, I am knower. Known, knower. Physical body, known, knower. Senses, known, knower. I, the knower. Suppose if they are not there. Suppose, right? Like in deep sleep state. If they are not there, then I am no more a knower. With respect to known, I am knower. If something is not there at all, known is not there, then I am no more a knower. Then who am I? That I also vanish with the known. Then who says that there is nothing to know? Right now, I don't experience anything. Who says that? If I also has vanished, who says that? If something is known, that known is not there, then in absence of anything known, knower is absent, and therefore knower also becomes shunyam. Then who says that that there is a state of experience in which I don't experience anything, I don't know anything? Who says that? Who says that? I is there, not as a knower, but as a consciousness, right? Because of consciousness, and the knower arises from the consciousness. Knower must be a conscious being, you can know that very well. A knower is a conscious being. Knower resolves into knowledge called consciousness. When anything which is not known, if such experience is therein, there is nothing to know, the knower resolves into knowledge. When something appears to know, from knowledge alone the knower appears and definitely knows the thing. And therefore I am consciousness, basically. That's what the nature is. I am knower with respect to known. If something there is nothing to know, I am just knowledge. In my own nature, I am knowledge. And then that consciousness is limitless, is a second step, and you have to bring the space, etc., into the picture. And that is where space is, consciousness is, time is, consciousness is, and that is where we have done, and that is sufficient for you. And rest of the homework, you please do it at home. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om.